we were told literally day one of my degree that the brain is an approach and avoid system, right? It has two modes, approach and avoid. Go forward, recede back, right? Fight, flight, okay? The approach system is very much associated with positive emotion, right? Keep moving, enthusiasm, happiness, pleasure, keep getting that thing, keep moving forward, keep going. The avoid system is very much associated with negative emotion, anxiety, fear, depression, right? Receding into yourself, going away from the threat, away from the danger, right? And what is, in religion, right, the divine, the supernatural, represented as? Well, in a lot of cases, this is something Peterson talked about, it's represented as conscience, right? And call to adventure. Now, what are those two things? Avoid and approach, right? Maybe the ways that the divine have been represented in religious stories are just mythological representations of human psyche, right? Approach, call to adventure, positive emotion, conscience, avoid, negative emotion. And the balance between those two. To stay away from the negative emotion, right, through doing good things and keeping your conscience in check, and following the positive emotion, following a call to adventure. And that's why God is seen as like the judge, but also the nurturing like father figure. And what do you think about that? I mean, that kind of clicked in my head one day, and I was like, well, yeah, that makes sense. It's like people go on.
Suffering as well.
Yeah, well, suffering is part of that avoid system. Suffering is an indicator.
Well, or you can approach it. You can.
Well, yeah, that's true as well. Maybe you can kind of alchemize it, right, and go from an avoid state to an approach state with something that makes you suffer.
Suffering comes in, and you choose which way it wants to go in your brain. And so say you approach, you continually approach things in your brain. Is there kind of some kind of reward or some kind of tolerance that gets better, like through kind of repeated exposure?
Well, it's kind of like we said at the beginning of the conversation about you're happy by pursuit, approaching, moving towards, right, growing, chasing something, right, something worthwhile, something meaningful. And maybe that's the same thing then. Maybe through approaching something worthwhile, you get the benefits of positive emotion, the benefits of increased motivation, the benefits to your sense of self. You become a more integrated, valuable individual. And that's the framework that religion outlines. Do that. Aim for something positive. And that's the idea of what Christ or God is. They are the ultimate higher aim. Pursue that.
Yeah, and there's something I quite like as well is, if you don't worship something, then you're worshipping yourself. And so how you can apply that is, when you achieve something, it's not then engraved in part of your identity always. It's, you did it with God's help, and it's nothing. And so like, they're kind of, and then the cycle of adventure goes round again, and I think that's how you keep, that's a nice way of being through the cycles of adventure.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that is just on the like limit of my ability to explain. But so it might have been some incoherence in this, but it's good for me to try and like force this out and have this conversation, because you only consolidate things you've learned by trying to teach them and explain them to other people. And I think there's something deep going on here.
Yeah, it's interesting, the avoid and approach thing. It's like, every kind of encounter, we have two decisions in our brain, to avoid it or approach it. And then you decide to approach things more often, and then that's how you get good at that. And, you know, you're that type of person that approaches something every day, but maybe avoids other things. And that's kind of the sacrifice.
And
I think it's a pattern.
And that decision is something you have in any part of your day. You know, there will be challenges in front of you, whether you like it or not. Because if you try and avoid all challenge, then you'll be hit with something at some point. You know, some sort of like personal problem, or even through the absence of trying to approach your life in a positive way, you'll start having mental health difficulties, and you have to be a person in the social world. You have to pursue some kind of activity. You have to earn a living in this world. Like, you have to do stuff, and through doing stuff, you're going to face challenges. And so, are you going to approach them, or are you going to avoid them? That's your choice.
Why would there like need to be a kind of an avoid system? Because surely like approaching would be best in kind of every scenario, unless we're kind of talking about prioritization and things like that.
Well, maybe the avoid system. The avoid system is the conscience. So it stops you avoiding you pushing the line too much. Or let's say you act a certain way in the world, and the world gives you a bit of feedback from that was not good, right? Then your conscience will recognize that, and it will become something you then avoid in the future. Something you say, something you do, because we're always receiving feedback from the world on an unconscious level anyway. So the avoid system is for the ways that you don't want to be in the world.
Yeah, maybe it's okay sometimes when you're confronted with fight or flight. It's okay to flight occasionally.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, Pyrrhic victories exists where you achieve it, and it would have been better to not do it at all because you lost so much.
Yeah, definitely, because the person that's always approaching is the person that says yes to everything.